Oh, man. The fight song that was forbidden at my house, Rod. You and I was growing up on the mean streets of Akron, Ohio. That team up north.
They shall not be named. They who shall not be named.
They who shall not be named. And I told you in the break, my father's a huge Ohio State fan. I was kind of indoctrinated into it, but he's still passionate about his Buckeyes. So Michigan is a problem, and it become a problem. So I had a buddy that came to the house, and we walked in. I said, I wouldn't wear that hat in the house. He had a Michigan hat on, and my dad's just. You can stay. Hat's got to go.
Charles to tell you.
Hat's got to go.
He didn't believe you? Your friend didn't believe you?
Didn't believe me.
He thought you was joking with him?
Thought he would get away with it.
It's
no.
like, man, come on now.
And then my dad says, hey, you were welcome in our house anytime. That hat's got to go.
Gotta go. Gotta leave it outside. I don't even want
That's a rivalry.
I don't even want it on the porch.
Remember
right?
Urban
I want it
Meyer?
on the grass.
Yeah. Not even on my property.
Yeah, on the sidewalk. That's acceptable. All right, by the curb where the trash is, that's where you can put your hat. It'll be there when you come back for it.
Yeah. Remember when Urban Meyer, there was somebody in the media wore a blue shirt.
I remember this.
And he made him change it. To the practice field. He's like, no, get out of here. Get out of here with that hat.
I remember that. That was actually kind of cool. It's kind of it's an a-hole move, but I get it.
And of course, Michigan has bragging rights right now. They've turned the tide as we had our Ohio State insider. At number? Where were the Buckeyes on our countdown? Four. Mm-hmm. Just earlier in the week. Steve Hellwagon, and he said, gosh, the last 2 decades, Ohio State dominated the rivalry. Mm-hmm. Michigan and Jim Harbaugh have turned it, obviously, with double-digit wins in each of the last 2 years. And that's got people wondering if Michigan's ready to take the rise and go win a national championship for the first time since 1997. To discuss that on a deeper level, let's go to the Vaqueros hotline. He covers the Michigan Wolverines for 24/7, their beat reporter. He is Zach Shaw. Zach, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm ready for football season to start tonight. I'm excited about it. It feels like the off season gets longer each year.
It does. And we talk more and more about it. There's more lists and predictions and speculation.
Talking season
is ending. Hey, you've covered Michigan a long time now, or been around the program, and it's been steadily on the rise. There was, Jim Harbaugh had to weather some rough times as he built the program in his image and his likeness, what he wanted, and now he's got it there. Is this a team that can take hail to the victors to a national championship?
Well, they can. I mean, right, there's still a lot of things that can go wrong. I think every fan of a good football program knows, injuries happen, or sometimes just another team is in their peak, right? I think Georgia's kind of the one that kind of looks like that right now. But, yeah, this team, they've been really good the last 2 years, and they have so many players back. I think they return 15 or 16 starters. They added not a huge transfer portal class, but I think they have 9 guys who are in serious contention for a starting job, who've played at other power programs. And then they have guys who've been waiting a couple years, guys who were top 100 recruits or, high 4-star recruits and have played a lot the last couple years. And now this year they might even get a bigger role. So I think I counted it. They have 31 players who have started at least 3 games at the Power 5 level, and They're big in the trenches. They're strong in the trenches. They have obviously the run game. I think most people who have watched Michigan know what their running back tandem can do. I feel like they're athletic in the secondary. It's not a team with a lot of red flags. There's things that they still have to sort out, but and it's in a sport where every year people are trying to replace, this or that, or come up with an answer here or there. Michigan kind of goes into the season knowing what they have at pretty much every spot. There's just a couple positions where we'll be watching closely, but that's a nice luxury for Michigan to have, is that they can just build off what they had last year, not necessarily, figure out who's going to do what and where.
How good is J.J. McCarthy?
I like the brevity of that question. He's what Michigan. He was exactly what Michigan needed last year. I know nationally people were talking about the 2 pick sixes, but I think his blend of athleticism, I think his positivity is really infectious with the team. He's not a selfish guy. He's not just about his stats. He doesn't care if he throws for 150 yards. If Michigan wins and wins by the way it should win, he's going to be a happy guy. He's going to be supportive of his teammates. So I think that part he's done. Now I think, and he knows that, this year is the so-called contract year, right? Because NFL scouts are going to be watching more closely. Michigan's going to be asking him to do better than last season in a lot of spots. The third down passing, the red zone passing, the deep ball passing. There is that next step in his game. Last year it was about winning the starting job, winning, each and every game. This year it's not entirely his show. They've got good running backs, but if he wants to be a first-round draft pick, if he wants to, be in the running for awards that he's talent-wise capable of being in the running for, there is that next step decision-making. And I know one thing that Michigan has started doing more this fall camp than they've done any year under Jim Harbaugh is they're having JJ call more plays, in terms of seeing what he sees on the defense and making those calls. And to me, that says that there's an increased trust level between Jim Harbaugh and JJ McCarthy that, that other quarterbacks at Michigan under Harbaugh haven't had. And that Harbaugh sees, JJ McCarthy is kind of someone who can really take this offense to an even higher level than they were last year.
Yeah, J.J. McCarthy. I said last year watching him play, of course, in this time of year there was a complete quarterback battle, and it wasn't really settled until middle of the season, and then they're playing in the playoff. But McCarthy, I know he had the rough game against TCU, but he also had some spectacular plays against TCU in the semifinal. Reminds me a little bit of a kind of a Joe Burrow starter kit. This is the ad-lib ability, the athleticism, the ability to avoid rush, buy time, and still make a big play down the field. I don't want to say Joe Burrow because Joe Burrow is an elite player, but do you see that in him? Yeah,
I think he's got that nice blend. He doesn't have the strongest arm in the country, but I think he's got a strong enough arm for every throw they're going to ask him to make, and then he also can run a little bit. He led the Big Ten in quarterback rushing yards last year, and I know he feels like he's gotten even faster this year. So I think he's got that talent, but I think, and here's the thing with Joe Burrow, you look at the year before he won the Heisman, he had a very solid season,
right,
but he was not in the running for number one pick. He was not a Heisman, favorite. He elevated his game. He figured out, he never stopped growing as a quarterback. And so if J.J. McCarthy can do that, then yeah, I think he's going to be starting to be even more in those first round conversations, maybe even award conversations. But I do think there is that next step for J.J. McCarthy, because I think last year he had great throws when he had time, when the receivers were open, when the defenses were really stacking the box for the run game. Well, this year, I mean, if he's going to make those plays, he also has to be ready to make those plays when teams kind of know what's coming or are playing to defend the pass. So there's a next step for him. But man, I mean, part of why Michigan fans and Michigan, the team, are so excited is I think it's been really Chad Henne was probably the last quarterback they've had who's had this blend of leadership, maturity, but also on-field talent.
Hey, Zach, let me ask you about the defense a little bit. Who in your opinion, who's the top dog on defense, in your opinion? Who's the standout performer?
Yeah, I think we've heard pretty much every player and coach say they love Chris Jenkins' game. He's starting to get some first-round draft buzz by different national publications and just a forced run-stopping in the middle. His dad and his uncle were star NFL tackles, kind of middle of the defense guys. And he was really good last year, Chris Jenkins, at 285 pounds. Well, now he's up to 307, 308. And so there's just been a lot of buzz about him, his pass rushing. I know he was I think he was sixth in the Athletics annual freak list. So, really good athleticism for his size and just really good balance, leverage. He isn't used to being this big, so it'll be an interesting transition to watch. But at the same time, I think it's kind of like a basketball player who was playing point guard and then they had a growth spurt, and now they're a guy on the wing. So it's a similar deal where he's got all the hand placement, leverage, balance things that a smaller defensive tackle has to have, and now he's bigger. So he's probably the main guy. And then hard to talk about the defense and not mention Will Johnson, 5-star guy, started to make some really strong plays. I think he had 2 picks in the Big Ten championship game. So those are probably the two that are on the All-American short list in my mind. That can really be the not just best player, but among the best in the country at their position.
Yeah, the cornerback, nice. Will Johnson, and of course Chris Jenkins steps into that Mozzie Smith role in the middle, making things happen. Of course, Mozzie drafted by the Cowboys. Hey, Zach Shaw with us, covering Michigan, covers the beat for 24/7 Sports and does a great job. Only 16 points a game allowed last year by that Michigan defense. What about Jim Harbaugh? because there's the Jim Harbaugh that's built the program, but then there's the Jim Harbaugh that's going to serve a 3-game suspension to start the season. He had a news conference this week where he sounded off on the state of college athletics. Revenue sharing was a theme for Coach. Where is Harbaugh? What about all the off-field conversations that are going on surrounding him and the program?
Yeah, I think in terms of the impact on the field, I don't expect it to be that significant. Part of the culture change that Michigan has talked about the last couple of years was really making this a player-led team, and then also delegating more to assistants. Harbaugh, I think by nature, wanted his hands on everything and wanted to control everything with the program. And the past 2 years, he's kind of, let other people, I guess, take the reins and have that ownership of the team. So I think, players, they just keep talking about how it's more fuel to the fire. I think everyone kind of laughs at when Alabama and Georgia do this, but, there's that whole, you want the nobody believes in us, or the outsiders want us to fail. It seems to work with teams, even when they're ranked highly in the preseason. And so I think Michigan, they're kind of looking at this as, the NCAA wants us to fail and things like that. In terms of the big picture stuff, it'll be interesting what kind of impact this has on Harbaugh. I mean, it's no secret he's interviewed with NFL teams the last 2 off seasons. This year, it's a very senior or upperclassman heavy team, and so he might be losing. They talk about they returned 15, 16 starters. He might be losing 15, 16 starters after this season. So I think the 3-game suspension, we'll see what the NCAA does in addition to that after this season. But I think the bigger question will be, does Michigan get Harbaugh on a contract extension? Because that will tell us a little bit about where Harbaugh, where his head's at. Is he annoyed at the NCAA? He sounds annoyed at the NCAA, but is he annoyed to the point where he would leave, or is this something where he's standing up for the, kind of fighting the NCAA, thinking that this will be, he wants to control the college football landscape that he's going to be coaching in for a long time. So I think there's 2 ways to read it. But in terms of the actual on field, I mean, you know their schedule, you know who they're playing.
Right.
It's not going to make a huge on field impact. If anything, it'll probably give the players motivation and kind of the inspiration to become their own leaders and kind of run the program the way Harbaugh would without him. So probably not an impact on their win-loss record or their season outlook.
Hey, Zach, appreciate that, man. That's what we needed right there, the overview for Michigan. Not a lot of question marks. Check a lot of boxes. Quarterback is back, and if he takes a step forward, this could be a team that plays for and maybe wins a national championship for the first time since 1997. Thank you, Zach. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks, Zach.
Zach Shaw. If you're a Michigan fan or want to be more of a Michigan fan, you can watch that at you can find him on Twitter. He works for 24/7 Sports. He's really, really good on all things Michigan. And there you go. Michigan beat reporter. He's @_Zach Shaw. @_Zach with a CH.